Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to Albany City Council meeting Wednesday, May 28th, 2025 at 4 p.m. I now call the meeting to order, and I'd appreciate if you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I call for a roll call, Councilor Newton-Azar reached out to me and said that she's going to be possibly late, personal appointment. So please do a roll call.
Counselor Smith? Here. Counselor McGee? Counselor Thompson?
Here.
Counselor McLeod?
Present.
Mayor Johnson?
Here. Next on tonight's agenda, item 3, adoption of the consent calendar. Council?
Move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. We have enough? 1, 2, 3, 4? Yep, we do. Thank you. Next is approval of agreements. It's already on there. Never mind. Item 4, presentations and ceremonies. Kakua Cats Nonprofit, Cat Rescue, Laura Van Winkle. Pages 27 and 36 of your packet. Is Ms. Van Winkle here? Can you please let her know her time is happening right now? Right there.
Can I wheel in? I have a little display with some.
Sure, please.
So it's not, I don't want to block anyone's view.
Right there is fine.
Put that around for you. Let me grab my.
Ma'am, your time is running. Let's.
I understand. I'm Laurel. I am with the nonprofit Kakua.
Please take a seat.
Sorry, I apologize for this little lack of delay.
She's, okay, please.
My name's Laurel. I have been following the progress of Albany's rejuvenation and fixing up a historic downtown. I see that it's making a big difference, and I would like to help. I would like to do what I do best. I'd like to solve problems, and I'd like to save cats. I chose the name Kakua Cats because in Hawaiian, the word kakua, it means to care, but it has a much deeper meaning than that. Kakua means to help in a sacrificial way without wanting anything in return. It means to care for the betterment of the community. So how do we address this cat problem here in Albany? Well, there's a feral cat problem, abandoned feral stray cat problem going on unaddressed. Currently, there is a program you can take cats to the Feral Coalition, Cat Coalition of Oregon. That's out in Portland. For $50, they will be spayed, neutered, vaccinated, dewormed, and defleed. This facility is located over an hour away. This does discourage many people here from participating in this program. The solution, once we open our doors, Kakua Cats will facilitate the transportation of TNR cats all the way to FCCO for anybody in the community who needs it at absolutely no charge. By solving this problem of having to drive to Portland, we will increase many people in the community to participate in this program. And that right there will stop the feral populations from growing and spreading, especially during these warmer kitten season months. So that's great, that stops them from growing, but how do we reduce our feral cat numbers? Well, once a cat has been trapped and released and returned to their feral cat colonies, they can actually live 6 to 9 years. So it's great that we have stopped the growth, but that population is not reducing in numbers. Every time we can take one of those feral cats off the street, now we've actually made a real difference. By interacting with many of these feral cats through our TNR program, our behavioral specialists, they may be able to deem some of them adoptable or even just suitable for our barn cat program. Often a cat with his ear tipped, indicating he has been feral, is possibly become friendly. However, these cats will not be taken in by the shelter as they have already been marked as neutered and released as feral. Kukua Cat House, those are one example of the cats that we can be taken in. Every unadoptable cat that we find a home for is a success, and that's our goal. It's a big goal. However, cat cafes like Cat Town in Oakland opened their first cat cafe in the United States in 2014. They have seen huge successes. Since then, there's 144 cat cafes across the United States following their exact business model. So what are we gonna do? Well, first we wanna score an empty lot as close to downtown as possible. We wanna take that ugly lot, we wanna beautify it, and add a custom pre-manufactured building for our Kukua Cats house and a brand new custom lunch trailer for our Kukua Cats Cafe, Sweet Island Treats. The building, lunch trailer, and landscaping will have a Hawaiian tropical feel. However, we'll use native local plants. Upon entering the cat house, there'll be 2 separate entry doors to get into the 1,300 square foot facility. This ensures cats can't escape because there's no cages. The cat house is decorated with hammocks, lounge chair style cat beds, palm tree floral cat scratchers. There's pictures on the walls of cats in Hawaiian shirts and tropical fish tanks. This completes that island vibe. The room is a huge open space, plenty of windows, climbing areas, and there's plenty of spaces for the patrons to spend time with the animals. How do we earn funds? Well, that's most important. The cat house is open every day, 12 to 6. If patrons would like to visit with the cats in the tropical cat house, it's $15 for 45 minutes. There will be a limited amount of people at a time. Children under 15 need an adult. Appointments will be available online, or if space is available, walk-ins are welcome. The room will be monitored by Kukua Cat employees and volunteers. There will also be merchandise and apparel available with fun logos to wear. In addition, our regular visiting hours, in addition to, we'll have instructed classes either before or after the regular hours, anything from art to yoga, prices from $15 to $35, and they will require pre-sign up. Some will be for children, some specifically for adults only. If you build it, the cat lovers will come. All funds earned go to operating costs, including cat vet care, and to fund that transportation to TNR at FCCO program. Not soon, funds will exceed costs. Our program will grow. So having that cafe, that's essential to the business model. We need that 18-foot Hawaiian shave ice lunch trailer on the lot to make us the Kukua Cat House and Cafe. That's what's gonna put Albany, Oregon on the map. Albany now will have its coveted cat cafe, partnered with local safe haven, focusing on controlling and reducing feral cat population while promoting rescue efforts. We will have traditional shaved ice, over 40 different flavors of fruit syrup, multiple authentic shave ice toppings. We will have 4 flavors of Dole Whip soft serve that can blend into 7 flavors total. We will also have multiple fresh fruit options every day. Those simple ingredients, I can create shave ice, soft serve cones, cups, fresh fruit bowls, and fresh fruit shakes. There will be an awning and tables and chairs outside. Catio will stretch out by the cafe, and patrons can watch the cats play outside while they eat their Sweet Island treats. During the cold months, I'll add in artisan-flavored hot chocolate as a seasonal treat, and we'll have heaters outside at the tables. Tourist destination, the newest tourist destination. From outside of the state, tourists will gladly stop by make the drive to Albany to check out this one-of-a-kind tropical-themed cat cafe that's making a huge difference in our city. After their 45-minute visit with the Popoki, that's how you say cat in Hawaiian, after a 1-hour class, they'll definitely make a day enjoying all the things the rejuvenated and historic city has to offer. Kukua Cats will also be a destination location for anyone visiting family nearby. If someone has someone coming to visit from out of town, of course they're gonna book this unique cat house experience with the Popoki. And instead of driving over an hour to Eugene or Portland for activities, their family's going to historic downtown. The college kids in Corvallis would love the experience for themselves and their families too. Partnering with Safe Haven. Currently during kitten season, Safe Haven's Humane Society can have as many as 100 kittens in the shelter with another 200 kittens in foster care. Meanwhile, they get an average of 60 phone calls every day requesting to take in additional cats. This situation is just as frustrating for Safe Haven. All hearts break every time a person and an animal go unassisted. Safe Haven simply cannot focus their priority on feral cats. Kukua Cats and Safe Haven have worked out the details of a partnership to completely solve this problem. We will be moving cats back and forth between the two facilities as the need arises. Cats that fall outside of their spectrum of help will now come to Kukua Cats. Kukua Cats will facilitate the feral issues with the less than friendly stray cat problems, the barn cat programs, etc. Having space for 12 to 18 or more harder to adopt cats will remove this burden from Safe Haven. That alone will reduce feral cat numbers by freeing up space in the shelters. It's proven. What is needed? Funding. Full stop. I'm here today to discuss startup funding options with the City of Albany to kickstart this program as soon as possible. The initial one-time cost of the building, the lunch trailer, and major equipment are hardships I cannot provide on my own. As Kukua Cats Rescue reaches its growth goals, these items we receive initially will be part of Kukua Cats at all stages throughout the years. It is critical to be resourceful when operating a nonprofit organization. Kukua Cats has big plans. The 1,300 square foot prefabricated building will be repurposed as our very own spay and neuter clinic in the future. The custom 18-foot shave ice lunch trailer will be used for going to local school events, farmers markets, and fairs to educate the public on the importance of spay and neuter programs while sweetening up your children. Why am I here? It's kitten season. Safe Haven has over 100 kittens in foster care right now. The feral cat population is exploding as we speak. Kukua Cats Rescue is ready to start up, step up, pair up, and solve the problem of stray, abandoned, and feral cats in Albany. We, Kukua, for the cats, for Safe Haven, and for our community.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on tonight's agenda is public comment. Public comment is a time for Albany residents to speak and for councilors to listen. The council won't discuss topics or make decisions during public comment, but will take comments or requests under advisement. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and must follow the council's rules and observe the same standards of decorum. If unable to do so, they will be asked to step down and take a seat in the audience for the rest of the meeting. When you get to the microphone, please give your name and state whether or not you live in the city of Albany, Oregon. Anyone signed up? No. Okay. So no one has signed up to speak during business for public comment. Would anyone in chambers like to speak during public comment? Seeing none. Next on the agenda, item 6. Action items, adopt a motion, by motion, award to bid of ST 22-06, Geary Street Sidewalk, Andrew Monaco will be speaking, pages 84 to 87 in your, Stacey Castro will be speaking to us today, 84 to 87 in your packet. What? No, they moved, they rescheduled. I apologize. The report on the street research has been rescheduled by them. They reached out to us.
It'll be rescheduled to, I think the date's going to be Monday, June 9th.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. Staff is recommending that council award a contract to Emery and Sons Construction Group. Emery and Sons is located in Salem, Oregon. This contract is for the construction of the Geary Street sidewalk improvements. We received 7 bids for this project, ranging from the low bid of approximately $1 million up to the high bid of approximately $1.3 million. This project will construct infill sidewalk on both sides of Geary Street between Grand Prairie Road and 34th Avenue. The project will also construct, well, I call them blinky lights, but the official definition is the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. They'll be located at enhanced crossing improvements at 28th Avenue and 31st Avenue. Construction of infill sidewalk along this corridor has been a known need for some time. Construction did not happen due to lack of funding and also lack of right-of-way. However, in 2020, staff was successful in applying for a Safe Routes to School grant, which will pay for 80% of the project costs up to $1.28 million. The city's portion, which is 20%, will be covered by systems development charges. The project is identified in the 2010 Transportation System Plan as a need in the city. Construction is expected to start this summer, and it will be completed this fall. Staff's recommendation to council is that they award the contract to Emery and Sons Construction.
Council, any comments? So you have one?
I was going to say on behalf of Ward 3, half of the project is in Ward 3. Thank you. Much needed.
So I'm looking at the total cost estimate was 1.6, and we're going to move it for 1.1? Is that right?
Yeah, we got seven bids submitted in response to the advertisement for bids. So we got pretty good prices for the project.
I think the prices are coming down, it seems like.
Has been lately, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Council, do you have anything for us? Anybody have a motion? Any other questions? I need a motion.
I'd move to award the contract as recommended by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you. Next action item, item B, adopt by motion, award of bid for ST 25-03, Salem Avenue overlay. Chris Sorkowski, sorry about that. Page 88 to 91 in your packet.
All right, good afternoon. Bids were opened on May 15th for ST 2503 Salem Avenue overlay. There were 4 bids submitted for this project ranging from the low bid of $2,341,640 up to $2,503,000 and a little bit of change. The engineer's estimate was $2.5 million. Staff is recommending that council award the contract to the low bidder, K&E Excavating Incorporated of Salem. This project includes approximately 4,800 linear feet of asphalt pavement rehabilitation on Salem Avenue between the Union Pacific Railroad tracks and the Albany-Millersburg city limits, including construction of a mini roundabout at Waverly Drive, new curb ramps and sidewalk repairs throughout the project, and retrofit of 3 crosswalks with the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. This section of Salem Avenue was previously rehabilitated in 1999 with funding from the 1998 General Obligation Street Bond. And this asphalt overlay and other improvements will preserve and extend the length of the pavement at the lowest long-term life cycle cost. So, any questions?
Comment. Thank you for the roundabout at Waverly Drive. That intersection is awful. That'll make it better.
Yes, we've received complaints about it for many years.
Oh, yeah,
It's
I
very
imagine.
awkward.
Yeah, it's a beast.
Turning out of that's crazy,
It is not very fun.
especially
no.
make the left turn coming out of Waverly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Any council, any other questions? Any comments? So do I have a motion?
I'll move to award the bid for the Salem Avenue overlay to K&E Excavating Incorporated of Salem.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the council topic agenda is item 7, business from the council. I will start with Ward 2.
Thank you, sir. I received a couple of constituent contacts since we last met. I spoke with a woman who actually lived in North Albany, but she happened to be speaking to me and said that she observed some mold and mildew and just kind of yucky stuff at Gibson Hill Park around the benches and the tables. And so I advised her that she could contact the City Parks Maintenance page on our website and submit a request. I also emailed Parks and Recs Director Kim Ledane, and she got back to me today saying that it's going to be on the list of things to get cleaned up. It just needs a good power wash, it sounds like. And so she's happy to hear about that. Also, I heard, I saw online people were talking about painting house numbers on the curbs in front of their houses, and there was talk about whether a permit was needed or not. I contacted Parks and Recs Director Chris Bailey, and she let me know that we do not need a permit to do that. And what's that? Did I say Parks and Recs? I said Parks and Recs again, sorry. Public Works Director, Chris Bailey, and she let me know we do not need a permit for that, and so I was able to dispel that rumor, and that's about it. Thank you.
I will go to Councilor Smith.
Thank you. Yesterday, I had a phone conversation with Tom Cordier regarding Walmart in relation to the conversation we had last week about excessive police calls there. He provided information about their tax contributions to Albany and Lynn County and et cetera. He read their tax statement for the most recent year, provided other information about shopper volume, employees, and so on. He put that in an email to me, and I sent it to Eric to distribute to the full council as he requested. I wanted to inform everybody that the League of Oregon Cities Women's Caucus is sponsoring a talk next Thursday, June 5th, from 5:30 to 7. It'll be a Zoom call. Executive Director Patty Mulvihill is giving an update on House Bill 3115. Well worth listening in. So let me know if you want the Zoom link, and I'll send it to you. The other thing is I have been concerned about I have a difficult time keeping track of who's in meetings when I can't see their faces on the screen. And I think other people do too. I don't know that the public is fully aware that everybody is attending when cameras are off. So I want to request that counselors who attend virtually turn their cameras on. And I would like to make some changes in the council policy, or the council manual that we have. That's not addressed in the manual's last updated. It's dated October 2024. The portion that pertains to how we run meetings was updated in 2018, and that was pre-virtual attendance time. I think we ought to spell that out. We spell out some of that on our website for how the public interacts with us during meetings virtually. But I think in the interest of public meeting transparency, I think we ought to take that on and turn on our cameras at the same time. I'm finished.
Councilor McGee.
Last week, today's Wednesday, I had an opportunity to attend and speak at the First Story and Hayden Homes, wall raising for a family that is getting a home in Ward 3 in the Meadowlark area right there. Had a really good time. It was we couldn't have asked for a better day. The weather was awesome. The Robinsons will be receiving their home, and then they're having, a ribbon cutting in October. So it's going to be coming up pretty soon. Shout out to Counselor Stephanie Newton-Azor, who came through, as well as Matthew Ruckers and the mayor for showing up. It was really nice. And then about 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to speak with some middle schoolers at their first career day at North Albany Middle School. Really nice, got an opportunity to speak with them, talk to the principal, and many of them are looking forward to some sort of youth council that we've talked about and kind of floated around that idea. So I think we have a lot of interest for that. And that's about it.
Thank you. Counselor Thompson?
Yes, thank you. A couple things. I want to follow up on a discussion we had. We kicked off last night regarding our role as the ARA. So following the ARA Budget Review Committee, we will have an ARA meeting already scheduled on June 11th, where we will adopt the budget. And my point is just to think about my discussion with Kayla. I believe it's fair to say that while there's work to be done to figure out if we have 3.1 million left in there, I think we clearly would say we have 2 million left in there. And I would like people to be ready to discuss how we perhaps use that 2 million and start to wrap up CARA truly, fully, and once and for all. So that's my message. The June 11th meeting's on our calendar. And my second thing is, early on in January, came before us a construction excise tax proposal that would generate funds to use affordable housing. And at the time, there was strong support for it, yet it was put off. And here it is. It's almost June, and I don't see it on any calendar. I don't see it coming up as an agenda item. So I guess it's just a question from me. When's that coming back before us?
Thank you, Counselor. And I'm pretty sure Peter will address that this time. Counselor Newton-Azor.
Hey, yes, I had a wonderful time with Dr. McGee and with the mayor, attending the first story house raising, so that was great. When they told us that we could write on the post, I have never had so much, no idea what to write. For the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, didn't know I get to write something on their walls. It'll be covered by drywall, but pretty cool. And then number two, so I do understand that we do not have I want to address to Counselor Smith her comments about having video on. I believe that even when your video is on, it's not up on our screen, so you wouldn't see it. Because I remember, with the prior council, Counselor Kopczynski would sometimes be remote, and we don't see him, even though he might be somewhere. But I've never had an issue forgetting that someone is there. I know that I feel like this is a really comfortable hybrid option whenever it's needed. For example, for the budget meeting, I was home because my son had a fever, and today he's being admitted to the hospital. So yeah, they think it might be appendicitis. So I'm grateful for flexibility, but also, we're able to do two things at once. Sometimes it's not we're, flipping pancakes and doing a meeting at the same time. But in my case, yesterday, I had an ill child with me that was asleep, but wanted to be held by me while I was participating in a meeting. And I just don't want to put that on, have my video on during that time. But I feel like I fully participated in the meeting last night, had many questions, had thoughtful contributions, and I feel like we shouldn't be putting a parameter on that. Also, lastly, I have, I believe in a meeting back in February, or maybe it was January, I had to be remote as well, and I was on video, and I believe I was asked, a ping was sent to me, and I believe it was Matthew asked me, they said, hey, will you turn your video off because it's a little distracting, because my video, whenever I would make a movement or something like that, it's right below your face, Mayor,
Yeah.
and people watching, it can be maybe distracting when you see that. So a compromise could be like, if we're able to have our video on whenever we have like a comment, but I use the hand raise feature, and I'm sure you noticed yesterday during the meeting, I'd mentioned my name whenever I did have a question, said, hey, this is Counselor Newton-Azor, and then I'd go into dialogue and what I was saying. So maybe there's just some best practices to iron out, but I don't think that we need to have a specific, we're all adults. We should be able to trust one another and know that everyone is participating in a full way that they're able to, and not need to constantly be on video.
Okay, so I did the first story thing, but immediately following the first story, I had two clients show up in my office, and they're an older couple, and they have this big paid off home, and they were worried about what's gonna happen to them. And they wanted to downsize, and I gave them the copy of the first story of the property, and they bought one. So they're gonna pay it off in cash, and they're downsizing into a 1,058 square foot home, being able to pay it off and live at home in a new place they don't have to worry about should something happen to them. I thought it was a wonderful thing. And other than that, I cleaned my garage out this weekend, and I'm done. City manager report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask Chief Harnden to come up to the table here. We've got a couple of things to tell you about, but while she makes her way up here, Councilor Thompson asked about the construction excise tax. It is on the, if you look on the last page of the white board that's forwarded to you, it's under the projected items. So that's where we put agenda items that haven't yet been given a specific date. But we anticipate that coming back in July, so about a month and a half. I wanted to mention and invite you to Steve Dorn's retirement, Lieutenant Steve Dorn's retirement tomorrow morning from the police department at 8 o'clock, bright and early. And I wanted also to thank you for meeting early today at 4 o'clock. We have some interviews to conduct. You have some interviews to conduct and a decision to make about appointing a counselor for Ward 2. Because of that early start, we weren't able to have our street maintenance briefing, but as Stacy mentioned, that will be in the June 9th meeting. We'll recalendar it. So I asked Chief Harnden to come up because Councilor Newton-Azor had asked probably a couple of months ago now about the calls for service, excessive calls for service, and some study into that. So Chief Harnden, and I think Chris Schindel is with us on Zoom.
He is.
Okay. So she's got some information for you.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. Going back to the discussion from April, I believe it was April 23rd, 2025, that also resulted in an article this past weekend by the Democrat Herald, which came out of some public records requests, some statistical data. Both our crime analyst, Pat Hurley, and your code compliance officer, Christian Dell, looked at what it would look like for the city of Albany to somehow try to recoup some of the costs from retailers that are high usage of our services. Huge kudos to Chris, and I'll have him go into his research here quickly, but the one thing I would like to point out is that this is not a unique problem to any city of our size, particularly along Interstate 5. We are a ripe target for organized retail theft that happens quite a bit up and down the West Coast. It's not uncommon to see plates from California and from Washington as we deal with some of these. And some of our retailers are quite aggressive in fighting this theft, which was going to result in more calls to APD. And so I would just want to throw that out there that I would be cautious about punishing or assigning a user fee, so to speak, to a retailer that is actually trying to combat this problem with us. We have large box stores in the city that do not do any sort of shoplift enforcement. my staff has seen them walk out of stores here. I don't want to name them publicly because then I don't want to make them a target, but we do know that happens. And we're working with our retailers. And as Chris will tell you in a few minutes, some of those retailers have changed their approach. One in particular is our Target store here in town that changed their threshold in which they call Albany Police, which resulted in a massive increase in their call load to us. And so I will let Chris come online and talk a little bit about the research. And he also did some very preliminary work. We would need guidance from council moving forward as to the cost to the city of Albany to try to recoup those funds. He did some preliminary math, and I'll let Chris come on and he can speak to the work that he did.
Good evening, council. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So in looking at this project, I try to focus on big box stores. To kind of define them out, it's any store that it has over 50,000 square feet is what I focused on. And then users. So that was Costco, Fred & Meyer, the Heritage Mall as a whole, Hobby Lobby, Home Depot, Kohl's, Lowe's, Safeway, Target, Walmart, and Winco. I also looked at other cities and how they did it and why they enacted these codes. And when I looked at different cities, what I often found was that the cities who looked at these ordinances were experiencing, one of them experienced 2 calls an hour to their Walmart stores if you looked at a 24-hour period. When looking at our Walmart store, we get about a call every 2 days. So it's vastly different when you're looking at those. But nonetheless, I tried to go through our call load and figure out if they were overutilizing us. So when you look at our 3 top used stores, and this is specifically looking at things that would be potentially hindered by more security or stuff on their end, our top stores would be, for use, would be a Target, Walmart, and Winco. However, when you break that down into like contributions and all that kind of stuff, as far as taxes and all of that plays into, they don't actually utilize as much as you think they would, usually within the 20%. The chief spoke of Target, of being this kind of shift in idea and guidance. So in a 5-year window between 2019 and 2023, they averaged about a $5,000 city usage if we were to calculate all of staff time there. And then in 2024, the only thing I could really see was a policy change. They utilized about $29,000 of city staff time. Now, when you look at that change in drastic, you go up about $24,000 in usage, that's a policy change on how they're reporting to us, which isn't detrimental because we want to make sure our cities aren't, ridden with crime going all over the place. However, when you look at what it would be to enact those things, so I looked at 2 different metrics, one being any store over 100 calls. And I used just the rate of $300 a call after 100 calls because that seemed to be the extreme that most cities used, was a $300 a call. So I wanted to use the extreme to kind of see what that would play out as. Within 2024, if you looked at the calls for service over 100, we had 107 calls total across the stores that would have been ones that we would put a fee on, which would total $32,100. If we pulled back and looked at it more as in an average, so anybody 25% over the average calls per of stores, which would be 78 calls, then that would total 173 calls, totaling about almost $52,000 in fees. Looking at how we collect that would actually net us a negative effect in going down the road of monitoring, setting out the bills, doing all that stuff, in addition to we would then have a ordinance stating like, hey, if you're having too much crime, we're gonna fine you for it, which could, in other cities it has, hinder stores wanting to move to our city because it's just a look, right? Even if it would have never affected them, it's another layer they have to consider in their growth plan. So that was something to be thought of. And lastly, just to kind of overall the scope of other cities who have enacted this, the most I found of city who enacted this, or kind of was the biggest news story about it, is within a year period, they had almost 17,000 calls to 3 locations, and those are all Walmarts, where our Walmart has 166. So it's vastly different when you're looking at that. I mean, it's up to you guys what you want to go from there, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But looking at the data just doesn't show that those are really, really high-end uses like other cities saw. And then just to circle back around, just one last thing for the mayor, brought up the service provider, assisted living facilities. So I did dive down that as well. When I looked at the fall, the state has an code that if you are to open up those facilities, you have to provide the lift assist and all that within the actual thing, or you can report it to the state, and they'll be looked at by the state as an enforcement entity. Our fire department does do that. And when we went down the rabbit hole of figuring out which ones would be valid for actually finding those locations for and which ones would not, there was 7 falls that would fall into ones that we would fine for. So it's really not as big of an issue as it has been because we've been utilizing the state and their licensing program to better manage the expectations at those facilities.
And to echo that, both on the fall-related calls for the fire department, and anytime we have a kind of what we consider a spike in resources use or anything like that, the outreach portion. So on the fire department side, you have your community paramedic that works very closely with some of our retirement and other respite centers to try to reduce those calls for service. That's the same approach that we do. Again, the council authorized us to open a substation across the street from Walmart to decrease our response times, increase our visibility, which is going to be a component of that. But any problematic business location address, one of the awesome attributes of having Chris here is that he's on that pretty quickly, and we can identify it and do outreach. We do have a nuisance address that allows us, and that kind of pushes them to get into compliance. Again, I think what you saw with Target, and we have not reached out to them, but we do know there was a policy change. Just the cautionary tale here is if the city wants to expend the resources to do it, we're not going to get the return financially on that. At least that's what appears at this point. And I think there's some other avenues that we can do to reach out to these retailers and try to impact the usage of those locations. For instance, just spending a little bit of time to hire additional resources, whether it be police or security, is going to be far cheaper to the city than implementing and administering a program like this. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Council, any questions?
Can we just get a copy of the data?
Absolutely. We have we'll give you the data we released to the newspaper, and then we have a report that Chris put together. We'll get to you.
Can the whole council get that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I just need some direction on where we want to go, or if you want to review the data first and then advise from there.
Sounds like it might not be worthwhile and table it, but I'd love to just look at the data.
Huge accolades to Chris. He did a lot of work on this. So did Pat Hurley. And anytime an issue comes up with this is one of the benefits of our staff, is to do this level of research.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. So I will now go to a 10-minute break before we start the next phase of our meeting. Be back here at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us as we work to identify our new city council for Ward 2. We have 6 excellent candidates to interview this evening, and we all are very much looking forward to hearing from them in this process. I'm going to close my introduction with words of encouragement and gratitude for all our applicants. For those who are not ultimately selected to join us on the dais, I encourage you to stay involved in your local government and participate through various citizens advisory positions throughout the local election process. I commend you for your willingness to take part in these interviews and a great appreciation for your readiness to serve in our community. I will now turn it over to the City Recorder, Eric Glover, to go over tonight's proceedings.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So filling vacant city council seats is addressed in the Albany City Charter. The council last filled a vacant seat in 2021, but has used similar processes in previous years. Tonight, the city council is going to be conducting interviews, deliberating, and making a decision in open session. Each applicant has been scheduled for 21 minutes, approximately 3 minutes per question, with a short 5-minute pause between interviews to allow the city council to finish up their notes. The council will ask the same questions of all applicants, and after the final interview, the city council will have time for discussion and deliberations. If after the interviews, the discussion, the council feels they're ready to make a decision, ballots will be distributed by the city recorder to the city councilors and the mayor. Individually, council members will write their own name on a ballot and select one of the candidates. Please be aware this is not a secret ballot. After the first round of ballots are complete, the city recorder will collect the ballots and read aloud the name of the council member and who they cast a ballot for. Ballots will be archived with the council packet. If no applicant receives 4 votes at the end of the first round of voting, any candidates with 0 votes will be removed. A second round of ballots will be distributed, and the city recorder will collect the ballots and announce the names. In the event there is a tie and any 0 votes, both tied candidates will be removed. Additional rounds of voting would continue until a candidate has 4 affirmative votes. Then a mayor or councilor will make a motion to appoint one of the candidates. If the motion is seconded, a vote will be held and the city recorder will do a roll call voice vote. Should there not be the required 4 votes tonight, the council could consider continuing the selection, additional time for deliberations, a second round of interviews for the top candidates, or some other process determined by the council. In the event of a tie, the council will break the tie in accordance with the Albany Charter. The tiebreaker will be a coin flip using an Albany Challenge coin. I will designate which side of the coin goes to which candidate. If a decision is made tonight, the mayor will contact the applicant and let them know. If the city council is able to identify a successful candidate this evening, the individual will be sworn in by me tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get clarification again on that on the tie thing where it was they get disqualified, or what was that?
So if somebody in the balloting process gets 0 votes, they're going to be removed from consideration. If we have 2 candidates that have 0 votes, they're both going to be removed. Yeah.
Thank you. The first candidate, Ray Kopczynski. Now, we're going to do that before each candidate. I think for fairness' sake, we should probably do that piece before each candidate. Is that, you guys are okay with that? Repeat what he just said in front of each candidate. You just did it for him. Okay. Thank you. So welcome this evening again. As the decision makers, we should all have vision for how Albany and the Mid-Willamette Valley will look in the next 10 to 15 years. It takes commitment to achieve the vision of great neighborhoods, a safe city, healthy economy, and effective government. It takes strong connections and relationships with our business community and our nonprofit agencies. Should local government foster economic growth? How would you engage the business community to achieve economic growth?
I believe the councilors, mayor, I believe that the last two sentences are critical to what you're asking me. He said, should local government foster economic growth? Absolutely, no question about it in my mind. So the issue becomes, how do you do that with the least amount of impacts to some people? How would you engage the business community? Staying involved at the chamber, getting involved more with some of the local businesses, and I may or may not agree with their position, but I have to be able to listen, and that's what I'm readily available and able to do. And I'm right downtown at the Carousel, so I'm pretty easily to be reached at any time.
Counselor Newton?
Oh. Albany's growth means we have to expand infrastructure like streets, sewers, and water systems to keep up. The main way cities pay for that expansion is through system development charges, which are fees on new residential, commercial, or industrial development. Otherwise, the cost of growth falls on existing residents. What are your thoughts on using SDCs to fund growth? Do you believe growth should pay for itself?
Again, these are some hard choices that the council has to make over time, and we've been kicking the can down the road for too many years. I absolutely believe that we should use SDCs and have them set up to the maximum that's allowable, just to even stay even, because that does nothing to change the infrastructure for existing areas and neighborhoods, and that's a whole different discussion that has to come up at some point in time. But going forward, I absolutely believe we should use SDCs as a part of that process to fund infrastructure.
Are there any financial interests, investments, business relationships, or affiliations you currently hold that could be influenced directly or indirectly by the decisions, authority, or public visibility associated with this position? If yes, please provide details, including the nature of the interest and any steps you would take to mitigate potential conflicts.
Well, I keep my sanity by spending a lot of hours and time down at the Albany Carousel. So I don't have any other vested interests in any of the businesses or anything else, so I'm totally neutral on that part. I've got no problems.
How will you prioritize spending in the city budget? And what specific programs or services would you protect or expand?
Very tough question, in as much as by state law, the city manager has to come up with a balanced budget, and that is presented to the council at the opportune times. We all have our favorite programs and areas that have to be worked with. We can't just all automatically lop off one at the bottom and say, we're done. There has to be progress in all of the areas, and some of those can be with some tough decisions. I believe, from my perspective, I'm fully involved with helping with the Parks and Rec Department. I dearly love that area. And also anything that has to do with trying to figure out how we're going to build the budget up to improve the roads, because obviously we've got an ongoing, slowly moving disaster without having road funding. And so I've got some ideas on that, and we'll go from there if I got back on council.
This is a good segue to my question. Our neighborhood streets are in terrible shape. The council has authorized staff to create a transportation utility to provide some stable funding for overdue and ongoing street maintenance, and is considering submitting a local fuel tax to voters. How do you think we should pay for street repairs? What other local issues need to be addressed during the next 18 months?
Yes, we've kicked the can down the road so many times with the roads, and the two top options that we basically came up with was the fuel tax, which has been shot down before, and also the basically this fee that we could add for everybody. And personally, I believe the fee is the right way to go, and I have no qualms about voting for that. Also, I'll vote for the gas tax. I don't think it's going to pass, but I will vote for it. There's no question about that. Even if we had the fee and the gas tax and a GO bond, we still wouldn't have enough money to pay for all the improvements necessary to bring all of our streets up to standard. That said, getting something going is always better than doing nothing and just whining about it afterwards. Okay? Oh, and then local issues that need to be addressed in the next 18 months. We still have the issue of housing, and also we have the issue of what do we do with our airport? And both of those are going to have some tough decisions that have to be made down the road because of the funding streams are getting less and less. So hard decisions have to be made, and that's what we're charged to do as counselors.
Thank you.
The state has demanded that cities allow more development, which has impacts over infrastructure and traffic issues. A developer can build middle housing in neighborhoods that were zoned for single family. The transportation system to these neighborhoods were never built to support higher density. What are your thoughts over the state mandated middle housing rule?
Well, I can complain about it until the cows come home. It's not going to change the state law. So other than that, how can we mitigate some of the impacts that are going to happen? And that will be up to getting our updated transportation plan, which will help. But in some areas, the actual land is landlocked, and there's no way to actually change how some of that traffic is impacted. And there's no real good answer as to how you're going to be able to change that. We're not allowed to just simply willy-nilly say, you can't build here, period. And so that leaves us with basically, I don't know what kind of a choice we have other than say, okay, if there's a way we can incentivize possibly a developer to not build as many, but again, you're taking money from one pot and putting it into another. And good luck with having that happen. So again, I don't have an answer to that question.
Oh, it's me again. Shit. As a city councilor, you are representing all citizens in your ward. Citizens who have a range of backgrounds, positions, viewpoints on city business. How does your background and life experience help you deal with individuals who maybe see things differently than you?
Well, in my case, I've been in this arena several times before taking self-imposed term limits, but I've always felt that my job as a counselor was to cast my one single vote in what I believe, after doing due diligence, is in the best interest of the entire community, not necessarily my ward, and for sure not any individual constituency. So if somebody wants to talk to me, and I talk to a lot of people down at the carousel all day long, wants to engage with me, happy to do so. But I'll always ask them, do you have a plausible and palatable solution to some of these problems? And some of these seemingly are intractable. They're not really. If we can come up with small bites of the apple, we can get farther than just whining about it and saying we're not going to do anything and just kick the can down the road. So I'm willing to listen, and I'm happy to have, coffee or a beer or something with anybody that wants to have a conversation. As long as it's kept civil, it's all good.
Thank you very much. That's your last question. Would you please wait out in the hall so we can
Thank you.
not deliberate, but get our notes and get the next
right.
candidate in. Okay, where's Eric at? is, yeah, Rebecca Staples.
Mayor, you moved through questions pretty quickly.
Sorry.
And Ray Kopsinski answered pretty quickly and pretty briefly. So our next candidate is scheduled for 5:30. She's here, so I'll leave it to you if you'd like to.
It's up
go
to
ahead
her,
and start.
actually. If she
Pardon?
wants to go now, we can.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's your call.
Should I read this again? Just read your portion so she's aware. Oh, goodness. I gotta finish it. I got some stuff to take.
Yeah.
Well, Rebecca, you can please, as soon as he finishes, you can come up to the dais, okay? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Filling vacant council seats is addressed by the Albany City Charter. The council last filled a vacant seat in 2021, but has used similar processes in previous years. Tonight, the city council will interview, deliberate, and potentially make a decision in open session in accordance with public meetings law. Each applicant tonight has been scheduled for 21 minutes, 3 minutes per question, with a short 5-minute pause in between interviews to allow the council time to finish their notes. The council will ask the same question of all applicants. After the final interview, council will have time for discussion and deliberations. If after the interviews, the council feels they have enough information to make a decision, ballots will be distributed by the city recorder to the city councilors and the mayor with the names of all the applicants for the vacant city council seat. Additionally, council members will write their name on the ballot and select one of the candidates on the ballot. Please be aware this is not a secret ballot. After the first round of ballots are complete, the city recorder will collect the ballots and read aloud the name of the council member and who they cast a vote for. Ballots will also be archived with the city council packet. If no applicant receives 4 votes at the end of the first round of voting, any candidates with 0 votes will be removed. A second round of ballots will be distributed and the process will occur again. Any candidates if there are 2 candidates that are tied for 0 votes, both tied candidates will be removed. Additional rounds of voting would continue until a candidate has 4 affirmative votes. At that point, the mayor or a councilor can make a motion to appoint one of the candidates. If the motion is seconded, a vote will be held and the city recorder will do a roll call voice vote. Should there not be the required 4 votes for appointing a new city council member at this meeting, the council could consider putting the selection process to a future council meeting, additional time for deliberations tonight, a second round of interviews for the top candidates, or some other process as determined by the city council. In the event of a tie, the council will break the tie in accordance with the Albany Charter. The tiebreaker will be a coin flip using an Albany Challenge coin, and I will designate which side of the coin goes to which candidate. If a decision is made tonight, the mayor will contact the applicant and let them know. Additionally, if the city council is successful in identifying a candidate tonight, the individual will be sworn in by me tomorrow.
Thank you. Ms. Staples, would you please join us? I want to thank you for joining us this evening and for putting in your application for the Ward 2A City Council seat. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. There's 6 counselors here, and each of us have a question, and we're going to 3-minute time limit. I think you were made aware of that. And just do you.
Thank you.
So I'll ask the first question. As decision makers, we should all have vision for how Albany and the Mid-Willamette Valley will look in the next 10 to 15 years. It takes commitment to achieve a vision and great neighborhoods, safe city, healthy economy, and effective government. It takes strong connections and relationships with our business community and nonprofit agencies. Should local government foster economic growth? And how would you engage the business community to achieve economic growth?
Thank you. Should local government foster economic growth? I would say we could definitely attempt to provide an opinion or an outline as to where and how possibly we could get to economic growth, but ultimately it would be the voice and the decision of the general population. So just like Albany does, we provide a lot of different activities and grants and opportunities, but ultimately it's the cohesiveness of the community that really guides Albany in the direction that it goes.
Right. Albany's growth means that we have to expand infrastructure, like streets, sewers, and water systems to keep up. The main way cities pay for that expansion is through system development charges, otherwise known as SDCs, which are fees on new residential, commercial, or industrial development. Otherwise, the cost of growth falls on existing residents. What are your thoughts on using SDCs to fund growth? Do you believe growth should pay for itself?
Let's see. I think growth and progress is beneficial to the community. I think it should be hopefully equally distributed, either if that's by way of equal tax assessments, like square footage wise or something. So it's not an undue burden to maybe someone that's not necessarily a property owner versus property owner. I think that, we really get what we pay for in this life. So, and anybody that lives here or has lived here for a long time know that this is a really solid, healthy, safe community. And sometimes you have to really invest in order to have those type of outcomes. So yeah, I think it's okay to definitely invest in growth.
Okay.
Are there any financial interests, investments, business relationships, or affiliations you currently hold that could be influenced directly or indirectly by the decisions, authority, or public visibility associated with this position? If yes, please provide details, including the nature of the interest and any steps you would take to mitigate potential conflicts.
Sure. full disclosure, I am a Oregon licensed real estate broker. I got my license at the end of last year. I have not sold or assisted in selling any properties yet. That's a part-time position at this point. I work full-time for Catholic Community Services. It's a nonprofit out of Salem, but we have 2 homes here in Albany. So what I would do to mitigate any type of conflict of interest would be that I would be fully aware of any voting or any potential conflict of interest and recuse myself for that vote, step out of the room and make sure that, I'm completely ethical when serving the council.
Hi. How will you prioritize spending in the city budget? And what specific programs or services would you protect or expand?
Thank you. I think that the council has been well established and the budget is working well. I would definitely listen to Ward 2's folks and see if there's any additions or subtractions they would suggest. But I would really, the wheel is already invented and it's working well. What I would protect, or at least continue to guard, is any of our historic districts or any committees or I'm also a big fan of libraries, so our library board and stuff like that, just for access to education and full access.
Thank you. Our neighborhood streets are in terrible shape. The council's authorized the staff to create a transportation utility to provide some stable funding for overdue and ongoing street maintenance, and is considering submitting a local fuel tax to voters. How do you think we should pay for street repairs? And what other issues locally need to be addressed during the next 18 months?
So with street repairs, it's a little difficult because, for instance, I've driven the streets of Albany since I was raised here, and I do remember the flood of '96, but the storms have changed a little bit, in my opinion. So although we can maybe, it seems very difficult to run after every little hole that there is in Albany streets. Of course, we need to patch them. I think that Albany citizens would be more than happy to volunteer in if there would be some allowance to kind of have like a self-repair type of committee where, for instance, like I know the streets in Ward 2 that definitely need patching, but I wouldn't necessarily know the streets, in the Knox Butte area that would need patching. So if we would allow citizens to have like a weekend or something designated to patching the streets, and perhaps we could apply for some type of grant in order to pay for the repair. Now, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know if that's even a feasible thing for safety or other reasons, but Albany is seems to be a very cohesive unit. So if we were to say to the citizens, hey, we're gonna do this weekend, I guarantee you would have a lot of people out there wanting to assist. Other issues that we would need to look at in the next couple years. What stuck out to me in the strategic plan was the city's cybersecurity. I'm not sure. It just seems like there's been an increase in cybersecurity issues in larger corporations, so I just want to protect Albany ahead of time. And then I'm trying to think if there's any other issue. I think we've been addressing quite a few issues head on and you know, in the spirit of transparency. Albany's doing a great job, so.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
The state has demanded that cities allow more dense development, which has its impacts over infrastructure and traffic issues. A developer can build middle housing in neighborhoods that were zoned for single family. The transportation system to these neighborhoods was never built to support higher density. What are your thoughts over the state-mandated middle housing rule?
I take the position personally and generally speaking that if the state is suggesting something, because we are within the state, we should work with what we're being told to do. It's with the state telling us that we need to do such and such, I'm assuming there would be a plan along with that, some guidance on how that is supposed to be rolled out. So I would rely upon the knowledge of the very smart people that are in elected positions. Of course, Albany is different than, say, Pendleton or Astoria. So again, I would assume that the state would make allowances and different suggestions specific for Albany. So I would just rely on the knowledge of those intelligent people that mandated that.
Okay, thank you. Are you done? Yep. As a city councilor, you are representing all citizens in your ward. Citizens who have a range of backgrounds, positions, and viewpoints on city business. How does your background and your life experience help you in dealing with individuals who may see things differently than you?
Great question. A little bit about myself. I attended kindergarten through third grade at Liberty Elementary. I went fourth and fifth grade to Periwinkle Elementary. I attended Calapooia Middle School, and I'm class of '96 of South Albany High School. So I'm very familiar with the way that Albany works and the different neighborhoods. Ward 2, I'm pretty sure Calapooia Middle School is within Ward 2, where I currently live. There's always been a wide range of folks and ideas through school, and my family, we moved out here from Washington, D.C. in about 1985. So I was raised, my father was a research chemist over at the Department of Energy now, it was called the Bureau of Mines. My mom was a small business owner, Feather Tree Antiques and Christmas shop downtown, so I got to work there in customer service starting at a young age. I delivered newspapers for the Albany Democrat-Herald for, I think, 5 years. So customer service and interacting with folks that I wouldn't usually interact with in my private life. I started developing that skill a long time ago. I traveled abroad to Chile, Santiago, Chile, and while I was attending Western Oregon University. There I learned a second language and was able to really see the world, which very much helped when I came home appreciate Albany, Lynn County especially. I was raised with my parents were a little bit older, so I'm able to, I was raised, in a household of really needed to be respectful. And most recently. You know, the people that I spend my time with are, you know, very great citizens, and they give back to the community. I'm also a member of the United Methodist Church. I have been since I was 5 years old over there on 28th Street. I think what makes the world go around is difference of opinion, different walks of life, different places for being raised. I'm just very grateful that I was raised here in Albany. I came back to Albany after living in Florida for 15 years with my parents. They retired there. And I just want to stay here for the rest of my life. Albany is an incredible place, so I hope that answered your question.
I think we all agree on that. So thank you very much for coming to this evening.
Thank you.
You know, the city recorder mentioned the process.
Okay.
And so good luck to you, and thank you.
I have a little handout for you all. Is it okay? Do you want
Give it to
one?
him.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Up is Chris Van Gemelen? Is that correct? Van Gemelen. So, is he here? Okay. Bio break at 6 o'clock, is that okay? Yep. If he's not here, we'll just go now, or you wanna wait till 6? Your call. The best time of the year, 6, like yesterday, it was like 8 o'clock and it was sunny. I love that. Here? Peter?
Eric's gonna make a suggestion.
Okay,
Mayor,
sir.
I would recommend we take about a 5-10 minute break or so. The next applicant is not here yet, and we are running a bit ahead of schedule.
10-minute break, so. 1 minute. No. Let's go ahead and reconvene at 5:51.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Filling vacant city council seats is addressed in the Albany City Charter. The city council last filled a council vacancy in 2021, but has used similar processes in previous years. Tonight, the city council will conduct interviews, deliberate, and potentially make a decision in open city council session in accordance with public meetings law. Each applicant has been scheduled for 21 minutes, approximately 3 minutes per question, with a short 5-minute pause between interviews to allow the city council time to finish up notes. The city council will ask the same questions of all applicants. After the final interview, the city council will have time for discussion and deliberations. If after the interviews, the council feels they have enough information to make a decision, ballots will be distributed by the city recorder to the city councilors and the mayor with the names of all the applicants for the vacant city council seat. Individually, city council members will write their own name on a ballot and select one of the candidates on the ballot. Please be aware, this is not a secret ballot. After the first round of ballots are complete, the city recorder will collect the ballots and read aloud the name of the council member and who they casted a vote for, and ballots will be archived with the city council packet. If no applicant receives 4 votes at the end of the first round of voting, any candidates with 0 votes will be removed and a second round of ballots will be distributed. The city recorder will collect the ballots and announce the name of the council member and their vote. In the event there is a tie with 2 candidates with 0s, both will be removed from consideration. Additional rounds of voting would continue until a candidate has 4 affirmative votes. At that point, the mayor or a councilor could make a motion to appoint one of the candidates. If the motion is seconded, a vote will be held and the city recorder will do a roll call voice vote. Should there not be the required 4 votes for appointing a new council member at this meeting tonight, The council could consider continuing the selection to a future council meeting, additional time for deliberations, a second round of interviews for the top candidates, or some other process as determined by the city council. In the event of a tie, the council will break the tie in accordance with the Albany City Charter. In this case, the tiebreaker will be a coin flip using an Albany Challenge coin. I will designate which side of the coin goes to which candidate. If a decision is made tonight, the mayor will contact the successful applicant and the unsuccessful applicants and let them know the results. If the city council is able to identify a successful candidate, the individual selected will be sworn in by me tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up on the list is Chris Van Dremelen. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Please join us at the desk here. So thank you for applying for the role of Ward 2 City Councilor. We greatly appreciate it. I think council all read your resume and read your questionnaire. So please, I'm going to ask you the first question, and we'll get started. There is a 3-minute time limit. I think they told you on each question.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As decision makers, we should all have a vision for how Albany and Mid-Willamette Valley will look in the next 10 to 15 years. It takes commitment to achieve a vision of great neighborhoods, a safe city, a healthy economy, and an effective government. It takes strong connections and relationships with our business community and nonprofit agencies. First part of the question, should local government foster economic growth? And second part is, how would you engage the business community to achieve economic growth?
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here tonight. So should local government foster economic growth? I think that the short answer to that question is yes. I think that it is the role of government at multiple levels, and particularly local government. I truly believe that a lot of the decisions that get made that really affect our day-to-day lives are made in really local governments, like city governments, county governments, that kind of thing, because these are the groups that know their constituencies the best. Like this is a smaller grouping of people, if you will, than like a state representative or a federal, like a senator, representative, things like that. And I think that it is really possible at this level to have those kind of relationships with both the constituency and the business community, where those needs can be communicated back and forth well, and we can make the needs of the community known to both residents and businesses, so that we can meet in the middle and really meet the needs of both sides. I don't think that representing one's constituents well is exclusive of promoting economic growth, nor is promoting economic growth the sole objective of local government. I think they go hand in hand, because that enhances the health of our communities. How would I engage the business community to achieve economic growth? I think that this is a place where I would try and approach this with a great deal of humility. My career has primarily been spent in public service, particularly in higher education, largely within the public sector. And so I'm going to acknowledge that this is a place where I have some learning and growing to do. And so I think that my first answer to this question is I would try and listen a lot more than I talk, especially at first, and listen to what business leaders in the city of Albany are saying about what makes this a great place to do business, what they think would drive economic growth, what maybe some of the stumbling blocks to this being a great place to live and work and have or run a business are, so that I can effectively represent both sides of that issue, kind of like as I spoke to.
Thank you. Albany's growth means we have to expand infrastructure, like streets, sewers, and water systems to keep up. The main way cities pay for that expansion is through system development charges, which are often called SDCs. These are fees on new residential, commercial, or industrial development. Otherwise, the cost of growth falls on existing residents. What are your thoughts on using SDCs to fund growth? Do you believe growth should pay for itself?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and SDCs are something that I've had to educate myself a little bit on, but I think that fundamentally, I think that the logic behind SDCs is sound, and I do think that growth should, in some ways, pay for itself through things like system development charges. I think we're all in this together, and I think that. If you want to set up and prosper here, that it's fair that you pay your share into the community. I think there's some complicated feelings around SDCs, but I think fundamentally my feelings on it are not actually all that complicated.
Thank you.
Are there any financial interests, investments, business relationships, or affiliations you currently hold that could be influenced directly or indirectly by the decisions, authority, or public visibility associated with this position? If yes, please provide details, including the nature of the interest and any steps you would take to mitigate potential conflicts.
This is a good question. This is a short answer. No, I don't believe that there's any of the listed items that would affect me from the perspective of this question. I was trying to think critically about the question. I don't own a business. I don't have a lot of financial interest tied up in any kind of investments. I have 5 kids. That's kind of where my money goes. So I'm a busy person, but I wouldn't say that I have any conflicts of interest that I would need to mitigate as part of this role. And if I did, start developing something that caused a conflict of interest, again, I've been employed in the public sphere a long time. I'm very well versed in public employee ethics, conflict of interest disclosure, that kind of thing. I would be quick to bring that to the attention of the relevant parties and work to mitigate that as quickly as possible.
Hi. How would you prioritize spending in the city budget? And what specific programs or services would you protect or expand?
Yeah. Reading through the draft budget that was provided as part of the application process, I really resonate with, I don't know if this is a direct quote, but a budget being a statement of priorities. That's how I've always approached budgeting in my work and in my personal life. Again, family budget. But I think that where I would prioritize spending, obviously, I think that one of the things that's really important to me as an Albany resident is protection of basic services. Clean water, good roads. I've seen some of the memes circulating recently about how Albany repairs their roads, and I appreciated the informative video that a council member recently put out clarifying some misconceptions about that. I'm an infrastructure guy, just as part of my work. Very long time. My very first job before I even went to college was working as a seasonal employee for a public works department for a small municipality. So cities and infrastructure, water, roads, sewer, that kind of thing is near and dear, and also just vitally important to, it's the base level of Maslow, right? Your physical needs are met. Things like public safety, fire, parks, is community spaces is another big one for me. Not just because I need to be able to get my kids out of the house, and taking them to the library on a rainy day is an important sanity check sometimes. But it's important for our community to have those public spaces, right? And to have those preserved even when budgetary times are tough. I think that especially now in 2025, post major pandemic, shutdown, that kind of thing, I think that in some ways we're still relearning how to be in community with one another. And I think that the city plays a big role in a place like Albany in giving people the opportunity to lean into being in community with one another. So those are some of the ones that I think that I'll just off the top of my head that I would work to protect and expand as a city councilor. I was gratified to see the statements about, investing in personnel in the draft as well. I think that that's really important, that we make sure that we have adequate staffing for the services that we provide, things of that nature.
Our neighborhood streets are in terrible shape. I'm sure you know that. The council has authorized staff to create a transportation utility to provide some stable funding for overdue and ongoing street maintenance, and is considering submitting a local fuel tax to voters. How do you think we should pay for street repairs? What other local issues need to be addressed during the next 18 months?
The issue of a fuel tax is another one that I've kind of tried to give myself a crash course on just real recently in the process of mulling over whether or not this position is something I want to apply for. It's an interesting issue. I think that, so the question is actually, how do you think we should pay for street repairs? And I get 3 minutes for each of these, so I should stay on topic. So I think that street repairs, like most things, I favor multi-pronged funding approaches wherever possible. And so I'm for exploring the idea of a local fuel tax. I don't think that that's a non-starter to me. I think that a fuel tax, though, to me also raises questions of, like, what does that look like in light of potential electric vehicle transitions in the next decade, 20 years? How do we balance the fact that there may eventually come a point where fuel tax revenue is not sufficient? And so I think that exploring options that also capture revenue more broadly than a fuel tax would probably be prudent. Whether that's in the short term or the long term, like, that's something that we as a municipality would need to figure out. But I think that while it's definitely something that I would want to explore in the short term, I think that there's also other, and I don't know what the possibilities, this is another one where I'll admit to a little bit of personal ignorance where I need to educate myself, what the options are on things like also levying on, like, electric vehicles, for example, so that we're not just asking Albany residents or folks who are visiting Albany, it's not just Albany residents, obviously, who pay at the pump, but who drive gas-powered vehicles to also pay a fair share. Like, I believe in fair distribution of paying for stuff wherever possible. Other local issues that need to be addressed during the next 18 months, I think that another issue that comes to mind is potentially if there are issues with things like stormwater capacity. Again, like, my mind goes to infrastructure issues first and foremost. I manage a GIS database for Oregon State as part of my work, and underground utilities and things like that are part of that. And so, wherever there are capacity most readily, and I'm running out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey. The state has demanded that cities allow more dense development, which has its impacts over infrastructure and traffic issues. A developer can build middle housing in neighborhoods that were zoned for single family. The transportation system to these neighborhoods were never built to support higher density. What are your thoughts over the state-mandated middle housing rule?
Yeah, this is a good question, because I believe in the concept of increasing density. I think that densification has a lot of benefits, but like you pointed out in your question, there are definite drawbacks, especially in the short term, to increasing density in development. And I think that, so first of all, my thoughts on the state mandated middle housing rule. I think that it's a fundamentally well-intentioned rule that has some unintended consequences. And with anything where there are unintended consequences, that's where it falls to elected officials like the city council in any given municipality to advocate for their communities. And I think that this is something where we have the opportunity to advocate with the state legislature for help mitigating unintended consequences of state law. And there's a whole lot that goes along with that. But we also have to plan for the state's not necessarily going to save us, right? That's not, I don't want to be a Pollyanna about this and say if we ask for what we need, we'll get it, right? There's finite resources. That's not necessarily how that's going to pan out. So that's, again, one prong to an approach that I would say that a local municipality should take over an issue of streets that are over their designed capacity. I think that the other thing that I would say is incumbent upon the city, and this is probably something that city staff are already working on, and again, may show my ignorance here a little bit, but my first blush there is we identify where the problem is worst and we start there. We do some analysis on where the street capacity is. It may be the oldest areas of Albany. It may not. Sometimes when you do an analysis like that, it can surprise you. And we direct resources first where the issue is worse so that it can get better, and then we move outward from there. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity to communicate with our residents as well as densification is happening about what the city is doing and what the city is going to do. And they may not be happy that they're farther out in the longer range plan, but the reality is somebody may have it worse. So those are some of my thoughts.
Thank you.
Whew. As a city councilor, you are representing all citizens of your ward. Citizens who have a range of backgrounds, positions, and viewpoints on city business. How does your background and life experience help you dealing with individuals who may see things differently than you?
Yeah. So I think my background and life experience will really be an asset to this role because I have had to deal with individuals who see things differently than myself, who have different backgrounds, my entire career. Like I mentioned, my very first job involved working for Public Works, and sometimes I'd have to go knock on people's doors and let them know, hey, we're gonna have to replace your water meter, or hey, you haven't paid your water bill, here's a 3-day shut-off notice. I have experience dealing with people who are really irate about what I have to say and people who are really happy about things that I have to say. I work in higher education now, and on the land stewardship and business process side of institutional real estate. So I get to deal with all kinds of interesting people all over the state. Oregon State University operates in all 36 counties. I get to deal with extension office leases way out in Eastern Oregon counties where the life experience and the perspectives that people are bringing to the table who may be leasing to the university are very different than people in Albany or Corvallis, Oregon in the mid-Willamette Valley. And some of the considerations over things like irrigation and water rights and things like that are things that we deal with here in the Willamette Valley, but look fundamentally different. And so it's all of this plays into I think I have a pretty easy time talking to people who are willing to meet me at the conversation table about issues and what my perspective is and what their perspective is. And again, like I kind of started out talking about listening more than I talk. Sometimes I'm a little bit wordy, but I really do try to live by that whenever I can. I really love public service as well. Like I've alluded to, a lot of my employment has been with public institutions. I've served on a municipal board before out in Pullman, Washington. I'm familiar with the quasi-judicial process of land use decisions. That was sometimes contentious when people are asking for a variance or a conditional use permit. I enjoy that kind of work, though. And I think that when you add it all up, like I have experience in the classroom, I have experience drafting contracts, I have experience negotiating. Like it's just all of these things where I think that my background will be a huge asset when working with people who are different than me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
That was the last question. Thank you.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Yes, no.
It's
Oh, no worries.
Kevin.
Oh,
Kevin Kreitman's the next one on the list.
oh, next one's ready? Let's go for it. Is he here? You want to break, council, or do you want to go ahead and do the next one? Sure. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. Reconvene at 6:19 PM. City Recorder, could you please do your thing?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So a little bit of a programming note, our 6:30 and 7:30 interviews are coming early. We are working to make contact with our 7 PM. Filling vacant city council seats is addressed in the Albany City Charter. The council last filled a vacant seat in 2021, but has used similar processes in previous times. Tonight, the city council will conduct interviews, deliberate, and make a decision in open session in accordance with public meetings laws. Each applicant has been scheduled for 21 minutes, approximately 3 minutes per question, with a short 5-minute pause in between interviews to allow time for the council to finish their notes. The council will ask the same question of all applicants, and after the final interview, council will have time for discussion and deliberations. If after the interviews and discussions, the council feels they can make a decision, ballots will be distributed by the city recorder. Individually, council members and the mayor will write their name on a ballot and select one of the names on the ballot. Please be aware this is not a secret ballot. After the first round of ballots are complete, the city recorder will collect the ballots and read aloud the name of the city council member and who they voted for. Additionally, ballots will be archived with the city council packet. If no applicant receives 4 votes at the end of the first round of voting, any candidates with 0 votes will be removed from consideration. A second round of ballots will be distributed, and if there is a tie and 2 candidates receiving 0 votes, both will be removed from consideration in additional rounds. This voting would continue until a candidate has 4 votes. Then the mayor or a member of the city council can make a motion to appoint one of the candidates. If a motion is seconded, a vote will be held and the city recorder will do a roll call voice vote. Should there not be the required 4 votes tonight, the council could consider continuing the selection to a future council meeting, providing additional time for deliberations, having a second round of interviews with the top candidates, or some other process as determined by council. In the event of a tie, the council will break the tie in accordance with Albany Charter. In this case, it will be a coin flip using an Albany Challenge coin, and I will designate which side goes to which candidate. If a decision is made tonight, the mayor will contact the successful and unsuccessful applicants. And additionally, the selected candidate will be sworn in by me tomorrow. Thank you.
So the next candidate on the list is Kevin Kreitman. Kevin, please join us. There'll be 7 questions, and I will ask the first and last.
Okay.
As decision makers, we should all we all have a vision for Albany and the Mid-Willamette Valley will look like in the next 10 to 15 years. It takes commitment to achieve the vision of great neighborhoods, a safe city, a healthy economy, and effective government. It takes strong connections and relationship with our business community and nonprofit agencies. Should local government foster economic growth? Second part of the question is, how would you engage the business community to achieve economic growth?
I think economic growth is key to any community. One of the things that's really important, first off, is the city to recognize and know what do they want to see in the way of economic growth. And do that, so through your strategic planning and other things. But when we look at, we have seen over the last 20, 25 years, we've seen a lot of loss of economic growth. And I'm talking about not just from the standpoint of the mom and pop businesses, which are very important to us, but when we look at our industrial growth, we have seen a reduction in that. And that's one of the things I think that is key, is bringing in high-paying jobs. How do we do that? How do we bring in and attract those businesses? What are we doing today to do that? And setting a standard for what type of business we want to see. I've had a lot of experience over the years, and just recently in my time in Millersburg, we brought in roughly, approximately close to $600 million in new investment. And of those jobs, most of the jobs, of the 2 newest ones that are under construction right now, their average wages are $80,000 a year. We specifically said what we don't want to see is the lower wage jobs. looking and taking, because what we're seeing is within the state, there's a shortage right now of developable industrial lands and lands that can be developed quickly because of wetlands and other things. So I think one of the important things is identifying where our industrial lands is, wherever we're going to want to see economic development occur, whether it's coming in and redoing areas, bringing areas that are not served correctly, but looking at what are the environmental standards and what hazards, what do we have that we need to address ahead of time so that we can get development taking place there. So that those that come in and want to provide economic development to the community have a clear understanding of what needs to be done, what we have done beforehand to prepare it for that. So how are we going to get it done so that we have a shovel? There isn't such thing as shovel-ready properties anymore in Oregon. But identifying what they need to do and what we can do as a city to assist them in that, I think is key on that. And then also finding out what's the community you want to see. What types of jobs they want to see coming in and what types of businesses and industries. And then engaging the community in that aspect of it.
Albany's growth means that we have to expand infrastructure, like streets, sewers, and water systems to keep up. The main way cities pay for that expansion is through system development charges, often called SDCs. These are fees on new residential, commercial, and industrial development. Otherwise, the cost of growth falls on existing residents. What are your thoughts on using SDCs to fund growth? Do you believe that growth should pay for itself?
Yes, I believe it should pay for itself. I think it's got to be a combination of city. We have to look at what state resources we have and what federal resources we have. So when you look at the SDC services, we need to make sure, you want to make sure that you're looking at how the development occurs. You don't want to hinder the residential and growth, but we also don't want to hinder and put things in place that are going to restrict the larger paying economic growth for industries. So having that balance and looking at what we're at and for that. And a lot of times, I hear heard over the years, a lot of comments from the state that cities' SDC charges are what's causing the housing problem. It's not the city's SDC charges, it's the regulations and stuff we've seen come through the state over the last 20, 25 years. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that in Oregon, we have Senate Bill 100 that was passed that created our urban renewal district, our urban growth boundaries. And since that time, which I think is a good thing overall, but we've seen since that time, we've seen regulation after regulation coming in either through initiative processes, state legislature or otherwise, that put constraints on the development of our property within that. So when you look at the wetlands and things, so, we've had property that, it's to the point where it costs more to address the issues, the regulatory issues on it than they do the others. So when we look at that, our SDC problems are because of the additional costs that we have to spend on our water, wastewater, roads, and streets if we're building new. So if we want to really address that, we also need to be looking at what's taking place at the state level. And how do we work with the state to recognize that and look at how can we look at cooperatively, looking at ways to reduce those costs for cities. Maybe it's looking at the fact that we're developing within a city. My feeling is unless it's just a really, it's looking at ways to remove some of the barriers for that development of the land that we have, or make it easier for us to expand our urban growth boundaries, which I don't think is the right way. But I think everything that we have in the city, in here, in Willamette Valley for most parts, is wetlands. You'll look at it, you say, that's not a wetland, but under state definition of law, when you look at what your soil types are, it comes in as a wetland. So it just drives those costs. And that then, because of those other things we have to do, I think has a negative impact on why we have to charge more in SDCs when we see development taking place.
Are there any financial interests, investments, business relationships, or affiliations you currently hold that could be influenced directly or indirectly by the decisions, authority, or public visibility associated with this position? If yes, please provide details, including the nature of the interest and any steps you would take to mitigate potential conflicts.
I would say no. I will tell you, though, that I do represent Albany Fire Department still. I'm on 2 national committees representing hazardous chemicals and Also, combustible metals, which is now NFPA's combustible dust standard, and I chair that. So I have a lot of, had and still have a lot of contact with some of our local industries, metal industries and things like that. But I don't see that there would ever be a conflict in those areas. I have recently worked for the city of Millersburg, as I think most of you are aware, as their city manager. I'm finishing up, helping them finish up a couple of small items with the economic development with both Ball and that, but that's wrapping up and finishing up a couple of items for their emergency management.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. How will you prioritize spending in the city budget, and what specific programs or services would you protect or expand?
Well, I would say the first thing that, from my standpoint, is public safety is number one. And when you look at where the city is at today, you know, it's come up probably for the last 30 years, is the understaffing of our services for public safety, police and fire. It's been an ongoing thing. It's been ongoing since we saw Measure 5 and then Measure 47 and 50, and even before that. So it's always been an ongoing challenge. And, you know, we have a lot of competing things. There's a lot of things that, you know, we want to do and provide. But I think that's one of the keys, is that we address public safety. We have to keep that first and foremost. The next thing I think is our public infrastructure, maintaining our streets. If we don't have streets that the responders can get down, or that businesses and industry can expand to, we're gonna have problems. So looking at that. But then you have a lot of other programs that come into play there on it. But I think those are the two main things: public safety first, and then our infrastructure are the areas that I see that we need to concentrate on. And as you see that, and I think as we see the value in the community, and you see that, I think that's gonna attract further additional growth, which will help address some of the funding issues that we have with some of those other programs in the future.
Thank you for that segue. Our neighborhood streets are in terrible shape. The council's authorized staff to create a transportation utility to provide some stable funding for overdue and ongoing street maintenance, and is considering submitting a local fuel tax to voters. How do you think we should pay for street repairs? And what other local issues need to be addressed during the next 18 months?
I think the street issue is probably one of the biggest issues that needs to be addressed. So that would be first and foremost. So I can remember, I've sat in here when previous councils addressed this, and there was task force and things looking at it. And, you know, one of the things I always hear the public come in and say is, well, it should be covered with our property taxes. Well, what they don't understand is we've seen significant changes over the last 30 years of our property tax structure. I mean, you look at what our property tax pays for today, and, you know, police and fire takes, 85% of our general fund dollars today. So when you look at the other, there's not any funding left. And it's not a simple problem, and I think we have to engage our community. I think that's where we probably have missed out in the past, is not engaging the community. And I don't think it's a one thing. I don't think it's just the fuel tax. I think we need to look at other options. Something that, as I was looking previously at this position, you know, something that I looked at is, you know, we have some things that will be coming off that may afford an opportunity for the city to reconsider where those resources go. You know, they're longer term, but for an example, we see the bond measure for our police and fire. You know, that's money that we're spending today. You know, maybe that's something that, you know, we talk with our citizens, say, you know, it's gonna be a three-pronged approach, A, B, C. You know, we're gonna need to look at a fuel tax. Here's where we are. Look at considering other funding sources that are already being paid for by our citizens, so it's not gonna be a new tax, but maybe redirected. Once CARA goes away, you know, it's gonna probably be a few years, but, you know, the funding that we have for CARA, we're operating right now without you know, it's not affecting our public safety and our general fund budget. Maybe we reallocate those funds, make a commitment to those funds to funding our street infrastructure issues in future years through bond or otherwise. So I think there's things that we can look at, you know, look creatively at on ways to address it. But I think the biggest thing, we're not gonna be successful if we don't engage the community and get their thoughts and explain to them why we're having to do this. It's not that, it's not because of cities' mismanagement, it's because we've seen changes in state law and through initiatives that have put restrictions on cities and required us now to go out for bond measures and other things to fund what a lot of the community thinks should have been covered under their tax dollars.
Hi. The state has demanded that cities allow more dense development, which has its impacts over infrastructure and traffic issues. A developer can build middle housing in neighborhoods that were zoned for single family. The transportation system to these neighborhoods was never built to support higher density. What are your thoughts over the state-mandated middle housing rule?
I think this is a prime example of state overreach. The whole intent of Senate bill, when you look at Oregon's land use laws and how they were done, we had cities under home rule had the authority to come in and establish that. We did that. I can remember when the annexation of North Albany came into play. There was very specific, the 10,000 square foot rules were put in place because of the challenges we knew for those very things with infrastructure and stuff. So we have infrastructure now, and North Albany was planned for 10,000 square foot homes. And the state's done this, and now the state's coming in and say, we don't care. We don't care what your plans were and what we've built for all these years. You're gonna come in now and do it. So they've come in and taken that authority from cities and what our citizens wanted, because a lot of public hearings and stuff, and it's not just North Albany, it's everywhere in the community where we've looked at and we said, okay, what do we want for density in this area? How are we gonna plan for that? How is our transportation system plans dealt with it? How is our public works, our water master plan, our sewer master plans? Those impacts, they haven't taken those into consideration. Any place in the community can have that exact same issue. And I think we need to be attentive to that because there are some additional bills in the state legislature right now that are looking to further limit a community's ability to make their own decisions from a land use standpoint. I mean, we're talking about things that are no longer even be involving our planning commissions. The state will come in and put those requirements out there and say, this is what it is. And if they meet this criteria, you have to approve it without any say from anyone locally. And it kind of comes back to, I think, what we've seen over the years is that home rule, which we had under the Oregon Constitution, we're continuing to see restrictions come in on what cities can do and what they can't do under home rule on it. And then with that, we're seeing it a lot of times, even if we could say, hey, you're putting an unfunded mandate on, well, one of the things when we look at unfunded mandates in the state of Oregon, there's actually a legislature on that. But when we have a supermajority, which we've seen, when a party has a supermajority, a number of times over the last 20 years, if it's passed by exceeding that supermajority, they're not required. They cannot put the requirement on the cities. The cities don't have the ability to say it's an unfunded mandate. So that's one of the exemptions to unfunded mandates is if it's passed by more than, I think it's 3/5 of the legislature, or if it's passed as an initiative. So if we have an initiative measure that passes in the state. So those are some of the things. The thing that's most concerning to me is some of the most recent ones were things that they weren't able to get through the legislature, but then the governor has put in as administrative rules and asked their agencies to do, which is even more of a challenge and I think more insulting to our citizenry.
Thank you. As a city councilor, you're representing all citizens in your ward. Citizens who have a range of backgrounds and positions and viewpoints on city business. How does your background and life experience help you dealing with individuals who may see things differently than you?
Well, one of the things I just mentioned, for the last 14 years, I chaired a committee overseeing all of NFPA's dust standards. Wide-ranging committee. We had industry representatives, we had individuals, we had groups on there. And one of the things to get anything done is a consensus-based document. A lot of discussion and things over the time. So working with that. And is one of the things I think that is important is listening to where everyone's at and trying to find common ground and knowing who your constituencies are and listening. That's, to me, is the first thing is I'm open. Anyone wants to talk, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk with them. My emergency services background, that's one of the keys. I mean, that's something that's just been, I've always been that way, but that's something that I take very seriously is listening, giving everyone an opportunity, regardless of who they are, their standing, whether, primarily Ward 2, but, anyone in the city. If they have something that they want to share, I think we need to listen and take those things into consideration when we're making decisions.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. That was the last question. As he stated, the city recorder stated, I'll be calling the candidates no matter what the situation is in the evening. Thank you again for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Have a good night.
Council break, are you good, or you want to keep going? Quick break? Second? Well, we can take a quick 5-minute break.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our 7 and 7:30 both have been able to arrive early. Filling vacant city council seats is addressed in the Albany City Charter. The council last filled a vacant council seat in 2021, but has used previous processes in other years. Tonight, the city council will conduct interviews, deliberate, and make a decision in open session in accordance with the public meetings law. Each applicant tonight has been scheduled for 21 minutes, approximately 3 minutes per question, and a short 5-minute pause in between interviews to allow time for the counselors to finish notes. The council will ask the same question of all applicants. After the final interview, council will have time for discussion and deliberations. If after the interviews and discussions, the council feels they are ready to make a decision, ballots will be distributed by the city recorder. Individually, council members will write their name on a ballot and select one of the candidates on the ballot. Please be aware this is not a secret ballot. After the first round of ballots are complete, the city recorder will collect the ballots and read aloud the name of the council member and who they cast a vote for. Ballots additionally will be archived with the city council packet. If no applicant receives 4 votes at the end of the first round of voting, any candidates with 0 votes will be removed from consideration and a second round of ballots will be issued. Following that round, the city recorder will collect the ballots and announce the name of the council member and their vote. In addition, if we have a tie and 2 candidates or more that receive a 0 vote, they will all be removed from consideration. Additional rounds of voting would continue until a candidate has 4 affirmative votes. At that point, the mayor or a councilor can make a motion to appoint one of the candidates, and if the motion is seconded, a vote will be held, and the city recorder will do a roll call voice vote. Should there not be the required 4 votes for appointing a new council member tonight, the council could consider continuing the selection to a future council meeting, additional time for deliberations, a second round of interviews, or some other process. In the event of a tie, the council will break the tie in accordance with the Albany Charter. In this case, it's going to be a coin flip using the Albany Challenge coin. I will designate which side goes to which candidate. If a decision is made tonight, the mayor will contact the successful and unsuccessful applicants and let them know. If the city council selects a candidate tonight, the candidate will be sworn in by me tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate is Ashley Cisneros. Thank you very much for applying for the role of City Council for Ward 2A. We have 7 questions for you, and some of the questions have 2 parts, and the council will let you know that they have 2 parts or 3 parts. But just have fun with this, and we'll get started. As decision makers, we should have a vision for how Albany and the Mid-Willamette Valley will look in the next 10 to 15 years. It takes commitment to achieve a vision of great neighborhoods, a safe city, healthy economy, and an effective government. It takes strong connections and relationships with our business community and nonprofit agencies. Should local government foster economic growth? And the second part is, how would you engage the business community to achieve economic growth?
Thank you. First, I want to say it's an honor to sit in front of you and have an opportunity to interview, so thank you for your time. I'm going to take a moment just to read the question again. I believe that local government absolutely should foster economic growth. That's what makes a great city. It brings jobs for our public, for the individuals we serve, and it brings money for us to continue growing our services, right? Houses and property taxes, we've talked a lot about that in budget over the last 7 days. And how I would engage the business community to achieve economic growth, I want to share a little bit about the experience that I would bring to this position. I worked, all my experience was in Arizona. I spent, well, first 13 years in the banking and financial industry. I left that during the Occupy Wall Street movement because I saw the disparities within our country. And I went to a nonprofit. It was a workforce development nonprofit. So through there, I learned a great deal about workforce development and what it looks like to be a prepared workforce. Through that, during that time, I obtained a master's degree in government and policy. My undergraduate degree is in economics. And it was through that work that I realized what the city could do for local government, along with partnership of private, public, and nonprofit partnership, and what that could do for a community. So after my nonprofit experience, I was recruited as an intern to the Chandler of Chamber of Commerce, where I was able to engage with local businesses. So going back to how you engage the business community to achieve economic development, really it's looking at what the city can do and ensuring that we don't have barriers in place for businesses to do business here, and that we have a prepared workforce. So engaging with schools, programs. I understand we have challenges that trades are closing at LBCC. So we really just have to look forward and continue engaging with these schools to ensure that we have the prepared workforce for these businesses, and just again ensuring that we have a business-friendly environment.
Thank you.
Sorry. Albany's growth means that we have to expand infrastructure like streets, sewers, and water systems to keep up. The main way cities pay for that expansion is through system development charges, most usually called SDCs, which are fees on new residential, commercial, and industrial development. Otherwise, the cost of growth falls on existing residents. What are your thoughts on using SDCs to fund growth? Do you believe growth should pay for itself?
That's a really good question, and I'm going to take a moment to think about it. Okay, so I would say my thoughts on system development charges, and if I understand what that looks like. So I anticipate that these fees would be paid for by developers. I'm hoping I'm correct in that, but what my thoughts on that would be, and I think that if I am correct, tying it back to public and private investments, we can only do so much with what we have at the state legislature currently. I have read and heard about the challenges that we have on our property taxes, and we do have to explore additional funding. So I do believe that developers should have an opportunity to invest in the city and the work that we're doing. So no, I don't believe that growth should. I mean, growth actually, I would say yes, growth should pay for itself, because if we are attracting great businesses and great individuals who can be within the workforce, then that I believe that is the growth that we could have to pay for the expansion.
Are there any financial interests, investments, business relationships, or affiliations you currently hold that could be influenced directly or indirectly by the decisions, authority, or public visibility associated with this position? If yes, please provide details, including the nature of the interest and any steps you would take to mitigate potential conflicts.
So I'm reading through the list again. So financial interests, investments, business relationships, or affiliations. I believe, well, I would say no to answer this question. I have confirmed with my employer that I do have the ability to sit on a city council. I do work for the Oregon Department of Transportation, so I would have to recuse myself from any decision-making in that manner. I do participate in a local party, but I don't believe that as a precinct committee person as well as a congressional delegate, I do not believe that there are any conflicts. I'm happy to check with the party. And my only other association is the American Legion Auxiliary, and I do not believe there is a conflict of interest there. Thank you.
Hi. How will you prioritize spending in the city budget? And what specific programs or services would you protect or expand?
Thank you for the question. This is very timely, having just spent the last 7 days just really digging into the budget. Prioritizing spending in the city, we really, I want to focus on the core of what our city does, the services, and I think that's important, especially with hearing everything coming from the city staff, the burnout, and overtime for fire, and I shared my concerns about, you know, if our fire is working overtime, are they rested to be serving the population and showing up to the job because they see the hardest parts of our communities. So prioritizing absolutely core fire, police. What do we have? We have parks, libraries. That all of that again ties into a place to live where people want to live. The events. I last summer I attended the concerts in the park, which is one of the reasons why I fell in love with Albany is the services that all of you have been able to bring. What specific program or services would you protect or expand? I mean, I just think continuing the great work that we are doing with the public, the redevelopment downtown is amazing. I love the historic portion. So I grew up. Albany reminds me of a town I grew up in Northern California. It's Red Bluff, California. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it has the historic shops and the antiques. And my grandparents were, and uncles and aunts were antique dealers. And we had the river that went through downtown, and we had the Victorian houses. So it's such nostalgia for me. And I made the decision. So I'm a first-time home buyer last year, and I made the decision to purchase a home in Albany. So I'm putting down roots here. And to get back to the question, I don't want to digress too much. But after the core of the program, we're, I think, just continuing to expand the services that are being offered to bring people here, the concerts, the car shows, the Rotary, the Rotary, I went to a bunch of events that brought us down to the businesses, and we're shopping the businesses, my sister and I. So it's I think with the budget that we just approved, we've been able to streamline and really look at costs, and with the funding that we approve, to continue all those core services and investing in.
Next question.
Our neighborhood streets are in terrible shape. The council's authorized staff to create a transportation utility to provide some stable funding for overdue and ongoing street maintenance, and is considering submitting a local fuel tax to voters. How do you think we should pay for street repairs? And what other local issues need to be addressed during the next 18 months?
That's a great question. Thank you. I'm going to take just a moment to think about it. So this is an interesting question because that is the streets are something, a bit of a challenge that I've kind of identified within Albany, is that we're trying to balance doing the work, maintaining our roads so they don't completely fail, because through the community conversation I learned that it's more affordable to maintain the roads we have than completely replace a failing road. And so how we think we should pay for street repairs, fuel tax, I'll talk about that a little bit. I've learned through the legislature that the fuel tax is becoming a little more unreliable, that with cars becoming more efficient, as well as, there's lack of, not as many people on the roads working from home since post-pandemic. And there's a third piece to that, but the electric vehicles, right? So that has proven challenges, and that would be another tax on our citizens, right? And so how we should pay for street repairs? That's a big question, because I think if you follow, there's conversations down at the legislature. We've talked about user fees, and so we have to balance what the Department of Transportation is doing versus what the city is doing. And I'm trying to be careful to, not share because I'm here as a member of the public and not representing ODOT, right? So I don't want to speak on anything that, speaking on behalf of ODOT. But what other local issues need to be addressed during the 18 months? I would say there's a few things. And continuing with the roads, I think that it will be balancing the repairing of the arterial roads and our local roads as well, to ensuring that they aren't failing, because I did learn that the local roads, the majority of the investment is going into the maintenance of the arterial roads and not the local roads. And so I think just with the funding, I'll have to remember that 3-minute timer. I think I'm forgetting about it over there.
Michael? Councilor Michael?
Yeah. Are you ready for me? The state has demanded that cities allow more dense development, which has its impacts over infrastructure and traffic issues. Developer can build middle housing in neighborhoods that were zoned for single family. The transportation system to these neighborhoods were never built to support higher density. What are your thoughts over the state-mandated middle housing rule?
So that is something that as a city we will need to balance, and something I didn't get a touch on in the last question actually was housing. So it's very nice that this came up. We need to balance a growing city, because in all of our conversations recently we have learned that the city is growing. Albany is one of the fastest growing cities in the state, and that clock is getting me. We have to balance between middle housing. I do believe in it, because we do need that is a huge need is middle housing, duplexes and ADUs. Yes, that brings density. So we have to consider, our housing, but also can we consider investing in transportation, right? So we don't have cars on the road. What does that look like? Can we do, I don't know, buses or something to that effect that we can help reduce the transportation issue, the wear and tear on the roads, while bringing in housing for individuals? That is that gap in between like renting and then it going into a first home, like a single family home.
That it? Thank you. As a city councilor, you are representing all citizens in your ward. Citizens who have a range of backgrounds, positions, viewpoints, and on city business. How does your background and life experience help you in dealing with individuals who may not see things like you, differently than you?
Yeah, that's the core of the work that I do. So I work in supplier diversity and inclusion, and having diverse voices at the table is what's going to solve or to bring solutions. I don't have all the answers, and so listening to colleagues and bringing together recommendations, having the conversation around that, and coming together to find solutions is what's going to not solve, I guess, but really bring solutions to help resolve barriers that people are facing, housing, jobs, things like that. And I mean, there's beauty in diversity. I have learned so much on different committees I've sat on where we had diverse individuals, and even in the work that we're doing now and solutions so the work that I'm doing now, I guess, to talk about it just a little bit more, in the diversity and inclusion work, I work with minorities, women, and veterans, helping small firms bring in contract with the state. And so just seeing what they bring to the table, and I guess I'll share in the past, so I have 1:28. So we did a cultural, participated on this committee for our city, Chandler, and we hosted community events, and hearing what everyone had to bring to the table and learning about different cultures and how to resolve issues. And I think that gosh, let me pause for just a second because I'm trying to get the words out, but because I'm passionate about the work. And I don't know, I guess I'll just leave it at I've learned a great deal and opened my eyes to different people and different solutions, because if we all look the same, if we all are having the same conversations or have the same life experiences, then life is going to be boring.
Thank you, Ashley.
Is that everything? I'm finished.
Yes, you're all done. That was the last question.
Thank you for your time.
Welcome. Oh, you want to take a break? Oh, are you just doing self-assessment?
Are you ready for the next candidate, Mayor?
Let me check with the council. You guys ready? You good? Okay. Really? Wow.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Filling vacant city council seats is addressed by the Albany City Charter. The council last filled a vacancy on city council in 2021, but has used similar processes in previous years. Tonight, the city council will be conducting interviews, deliberating, and making a decision in open session in accordance with the Oregon Public Meetings Law. Each applicant has been scheduled for 21 minutes, approximately 3 minutes per question, with a short 5-minute pause between interviews to allow the council time to finish up notes. The council will ask the same question of all applicants, and after the final interview, council will have time for discussion and deliberations. If after the discussions, the council feels they're ready to make a decision, ballots will be distributed by the city recorder to the city councilors and the mayor. Individually, council members will write their name on a ballot and select one of the candidates on the ballot. Please be aware this is not a secret ballot. After the first round of ballots are complete, the city recorder will collect the ballots and read aloud the name of the council member and who they cast a ballot for. Ballots additionally will be archived with the city council packet. If no applicant receives 4 votes at the end of the first round of voting, any candidates with 0 votes will be removed. If there is a tie vote with 2 candidates that have zeros or more, both tied candidates will be removed and a second round of ballots will be issued. Additional rounds of voting would continue until a candidate has 4 affirmative votes. At that point, the mayor or a councilor will make a motion to appoint one of the candidates. And if the motion is seconded, a vote will be held and the city recorder will do a roll call voice vote. Should there not be the required 4 votes for appointing a new council member tonight, the council could consider other options to include continuing the selection to a future council meeting, additional time for deliberations, a second round of interviews of the top candidates, or some other process as determined by the council. In the event of a tie, the council will break the tie in accordance with the Albany Charter. In this case, the tiebreaker will be a coin flip using an Albany Challenge coin, and I will designate which side of the coin goes to which candidate. If a decision is made tonight, the mayor will contact the successful and unsuccessful applicants and let them know. And the successful candidate will be sworn in by me tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Rachel Bisco. Please join us. I want to thank you for applying to serve as Albany City Council in Ward 2. The council is really interested in finding out about you. So we have 7 questions, and there will be a timer that shows up. We have 3 minutes per question. So I'm going to go ahead and start now. As decision makers, we should all have a vision for how Albany and Mid-Willamette Valley will look in the next 10 to 15 years. It takes commitment to achieve a vision of great neighborhoods, a safe city, a healthy economy, and an effective government. It takes strong connections and relationships with our business community and nonprofit agencies. Should local government foster economic growth? Part 2 is, how would you engage the business community to achieve economic growth?
Thank you for your time. For the first question, I would say yes, we do need to foster economic growth because it is a huge part of what our community is. Without economic growth, we don't have a community, we don't have a city. With the engaging the business community to achieve the economic growth, I would say I have already done a bit of that. I could definitely do more when I'm working in the spaces that I'm in. So I work for Paid Leave Oregon for the state of Oregon. And so with that, I connect with a lot of businesses and employers and connect them with their employees and give the employees an option for taking protected leave. And so I kind of connect in that space. With Albany, I have worked in LBCC for a couple of years, went to school, was also the student engagement leader and student body president there as well. And so for economic growth, like trying to bring in more community members and with the businesses, any new businesses, if we have the capacity to do so, I think is very important.
Thank you.
Albany's growth means that we have to expand infrastructure like streets, sewers, and water systems to keep up. The main way cities pay for that expansion is through system development charges, which are usually referred to as SDCs. These are fees on new residential, commercial, or industrial development. Otherwise, the cost of growth falls onto existing residents. What are your thoughts on using SDCs to fund growth? Do you believe growth should pay for itself?
Give me just a moment to catch up on reading it, sorry. Okay, I am ready. I haven't had a lot of experience with SDCs. I have heard a lot about them. I think that it is very helpful to have those rather than having it fall on to the existing residents, because as a resident of Albany and as a community member and community advocate, I think it is important to implement the SDCs rather than laying it on everybody to deal with the cost. And I think that growth paying for itself is difficult. If it's something that we're able to do, it'd be great. But overall, I think probably not.
Do I have amendment 47? Good?
Hmm?
Okay, next question, please.
Are there any financial interests, investments, business relationships, or affiliations you currently hold that could be influenced directly or indirectly by the decisions, authority, or public visibility associated with this position? If yes, please provide details, including the nature of the interest and any steps you would take to mitigate potential conflicts.
Thank you for the question. As far as I'm aware, I wouldn't have any conflict or specific interests. I am mostly a community member at the moment. I'm sure most of you know I am currently in the running position for board member for LBCC. If I was to be put on that seat, that might at some point become a conflict of interest. And in that space, if it was something that would become a conflict of interest, I would remove myself from that space or that discussion.
Hi. So how would you prioritize spending in the city budget? And what specific programs or services would you protect or expand?
My personal priorities that I also bring through the city council if I was appointed to this position has always been housing affordability, food insecurity, community development, and engagement. And so any specific programs leading towards that is what I would prioritize. But obviously in this space, it is a decision for all of the city council, not just one member.
Our neighborhood streets are in terrible shape. The council has authorized staff to create a transportation utility to provide some stable funding for overdue and ongoing street maintenance, and is considering submitting a local fuel tax to voters. How do you think we should pay for street repairs? And what other local issues need to be addressed during the next 18 months?
Give me just a moment, please. I think that as a community member, any amount of tax is difficult to take on, especially in the current economy and the struggle with housing affordability, living affordability in a overall sense. Seeing that the potential for a local fuel tax, it's not ideal, but if that's the way that we choose as a council to move forward. If we find that's the best option and the best for the community, then we should go with that. I can't think of a specific way that we could pay for street repairs other than an added tax onto something somewhere in the community. Trying to keep it as low as possible for an added tax is obviously something that's very important to get the support of our constituents. And as for other local issues, affordability. Affordability can be housing affordability, food affordability, education affordability. So working with like workforce spaces like that. It's very difficult for those either coming out of high school or those going back for education later in their life to afford those pieces while also living a semi-affordable life. So those are local issues that are always going to be issues. There's never going to be a solid resolve for that because the economy fluctuates so much. So I think those are very important local issues that should always be addressed, not just in the next 18 months.
Thank you.
Yes. The state has demanded that cities allow more dense development, which has its impacts over infrastructure and traffic issues. A developer can build middle housing in neighborhoods that were zoned for single family. The transportation system to these neighborhoods were never built to support higher density. What are your thoughts over the state mandated middle housing rule?
It's a very interesting rule. Obviously, we have to follow it, and it's difficult since we're seeing a lot more of that middle housing coming in. It's a requirement for our city and many others. Personal thoughts, I think it's difficult to keep up with the infrastructure of it. I lived in Philomath for most of my life and watched it just blow up with middle housing, like a bunch of apartments, and we didn't have the infrastructure to hold the capacity of it. And so I think it's a good thing to have. You know, it goes with that housing affordability as well, but it needs to be built smart and only with the infrastructure to handle it. If we don't have it, we can't build it.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, as a city councilor, you are representing all citizens of your ward, in your ward, citizens who have a range of backgrounds, positions, and viewpoints on city business. How does your background and life experience help you in dealing with the individuals who may see things differently than you?
I appreciate this question. It's probably my favorite. I have quite a diverse background. I'm sure if you've seen my resume, it's there, but I can speak to it. So I started, like I said before in the previous question, I started in Philomath, grew up there, went to high school in Corvallis, and went directly into the firefighter and emergency response path. I since had removed myself from that for some particular issues and went into college at LBCC. I became the elected student council president there, where I led a team of 22 individuals of various ages, backgrounds, LGBTQ, veterans, is probably the most diverse, can't speak for the current team, but the most diverse up until that point team that the Student Leadership Council had ever seen. It was a very difficult conversation in some of our meetings because of the diversity and the disagreements. And so bringing that to light and being able to help everybody understand that while we might not always agree, it's very important to come to a middle ground for the best of the whole. And from there, I graduated from LBCC, but before I did so, I was actually appointed by the governor to the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. There, I have, I have worked with strategic planning and allocating and distributing $4.39 billion budget for workforce development, higher education, and other programs. My current job, as I mentioned before as well, is with Paid Leave Oregon, where I connect with so many different customers all day long, helping them with their claims, their questions, getting them information about how their employer can support them, how we can support them. And no person is the same, no customer is the same. I really enjoy being able to connect with each individual and help them better understand the program and better understand what they might need. Overall, it's important to me to take in everybody's perspective. And without it, there isn't a community. Looks like I'm at about time.
Thank you very much. You're all done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for a break now? Council? That's what I'm saying. Are we ready for a break now? We're gonna take a 10-minute break, be back at 7:36. So we're supposed to be doing this at 8 p.m., but I don't think we want to wait. Next is discussion, deliberation, and possible action to appoint a city councilor for vacancy. So how would you like to start this?
If there's any discussion that the council wants to have, I would say that would be appropriate. Otherwise, if everyone feels there's enough information to make a decision, we can start the ballot process.
Council would like to discuss anything?
I can tell you what I'm looking for in a counselor. This is it's a caretaker position since there's 18 months left on the term, but it's a really important 18 months. We have a lot of big decisions ahead of us, big issues that need solutions and the solutions are coming at us fast after a long time of discussion. I'm looking for a balance of opinion and temperament and background with the issues, flexibility. I'm considering all of those things through the interviews and the background material that we had on all the candidates. So I would ask my fellow counselors to consider some of those characteristics in making your decisions.
Please.
Yeah, I largely agree. I kind of have a little rubric I created myself as I was listening and tried to score the answers for myself. And I just want to say to all the candidates, I feel like I don't think I would get picked if I went through this process, and I have gone through this kind of process before, so I understand, and I know how difficult it is, and I would largely agree with Marilyn on some of the things I'm looking for, I think I found it. I will say that I think I found it.
Go ahead, Councilor McCall.
Thank you, sir. What I'm looking for in a candidate for city council, as the other Ward 2 counselor, I am looking for someone that I can work with collaboratively, that I can know and trust and look to when a constituent has a concern about our community, our city, our neighborhoods. I'm looking for someone who can tackle these issues with constituents together. And I'm looking for someone who does not have business interests in the city, someone who is not going to use this platform to try to gain more business for themselves. But ultimately, like I said, I need someone who I can work with collaboratively. And so I do hope that if this comes to a second vote, I do hope that my fellow counselors take that into consideration and vote with me when it comes to the second vote. Thank you.
I just want someone that's really curious and is willing to do a lot of research because, as I think a lot of y'all know, I love to do extra credit assignments and read extra, legislation pieces or scientific studies that might be related to our work. So that's always exciting to me to see when someone's done a little bit of extra legwork, and it's just curious.
I've sat on numerous hiring committees for higher ed for a long time. And one of the things that I always think about is that I want someone that is completely different than me,
because you already have me. And so in that, I look for people who are independent thinkers, who will not just go where the wind blows. Someone who, yes, reads and asks a lot of questions, but also listens a lot. And it's not self-serving. This is a selfless position. And no matter how many times they tell you, oh, city councils, you only meet a certain amount of times, it's like 30,000 times more than that. So it's very time consuming. I'm not complaining, I'm just keeping it real. So whoever is picked, please do not put city council in a box in reference to time, but think about it in breadth and depth, because that is what it is, so.
What is that? Oh, it's a truck. So as the mayor, I'm looking for a person that will work with all of us, that will meet and talk with all of us. We don't have to agree on everything, but at least hear each other out when opportunity exists. I want somebody also that's willing to engage the community in conversation. Get out in the community, talk to your constituents, and don't just be in your ward. If there's something going on in other wards, join your councilor and support them and support their engagement with their community. And if you're not having fun doing this, you're probably doing the wrong thing. The kids in this community want to know what's going on. The seniors in this community want to know what's going on. And everyone else wants to know what's going on. And they want to know that they can reach out to any counselor and just have a conversation. I've seen over the last 7 years, the engagement in this council and previous council has gone up tremendously. We got counselors in schools. We got counselors doing senior communities. We got counselors doing other things out in the community, going to events. Those things are important to this community. They need to know that they can talk to us. And so that's what I'm looking for, and I'm hoping somebody, we'll select somebody, and also that person is gonna be my city councilor as well. Like Councilor McLeod, she is my city councilor. So I need somebody that's gonna listen to me when I have issues outside of being mayor. So, thanks, that's about for me. So what are we doing now? We wanna vote? Let's get to it.
That's good.
Our names are on these already? So just pick one person?
You're picking one person.
We should do ranked choice voting next time, though. Thanks.
We fold and pass, and you pick up.
All right, I have all the ballots. Perfect. So we have a ballot from Councilor Newton Azor. It's for Chris Van Drimmelen. We have a ballot from Councilor McLeod. This is for Christopher Van Drimmelen. We have a ballot from Councilor McGee. This is for Christopher Van Drimmelen. We have a ballot from Councilor Smith. This is for Kevin Kreitman. We have a ballot from Councilor Thompson. It's for Christopher Van Drimmelen. And we have a ballot from Mayor Johnson for Kevin Kreitman. Yeah, it looks like we have 4 votes.
We're done.
I move to appoint Christopher Van Dremmelman to Albany City Council, Ward 2A.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nobody. Oh, so many, yeah. Good.
Would you like a roll call vote, Mayor?
Nope, I think we're good. Are you good, Riley?
Thank you.
Okay, we're all good. I need phone numbers. No, they're not. They've not redacted them. Oh, do you want us to leave the notes up here? Yes. I'm gonna put Roman numeral 2 on mine. Bullet writing.
Believe we have two other orders of business, Mayor, on the agenda.
Next item on the day's agenda is Monday, June 9th, a work session at 4 p.m. Wednesday, June 11th, for a city council meeting at 6 p.m. And we're going to adjourn.